Hello and welcome to the Ask the Finance Diva podcast. I'm Shoni Sharper, your host, and joining me tonight is none other than NFL great linebacker Levon Kirkland. Welcome to the Ask the Finance Diva podcast, and tonight we have a special guest, retired NFL great linebacker and Steel City's finest. I was going to say, didn't they call you the monster in the middle back in the day?
Yeah, they call me the monster in the middle. I have no reason why they would do that, but I guess because of my size and being a very good player. So, yeah, they just used to call me the monster in the middle. So,
Okay. I
yeah.
think from my perspective, you control the middle. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like I said, the monster moniker was because I was probably bigger than most linebackers at that time, weighing around 270, 280.
Right.
So I was a big guy. So they
Right.
called me monster. Yeah.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to start off our conversation tonight. Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay.
I know you were with the Steelers 10, 11 years maybe before
Well, I
moving
was
on.
with the Steelers only 9 years, but I played in the NFL for 11 seasons.
Okay. 11 seasons. Right.
After after Pittsburgh, I went to Seattle, and then I went to Philly.
Got you.
So, but 11 seasons altogether. Um, Prior to that, I was at Clemson University, where I was a three-time All ACC, two-time All American. I just recently, I guess not so recently, but 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I received their Ring of Honor, so that was really cool. It's the highest honor you can get as a student athlete. So
Right.
put my name on the stadium, which is really cool.
Nice.
Not
All
bad
right.
from Lamar,
All
South Carolina.
right.
Yeah,
Not
so
bad.
yeah, not bad at all. So that, and I just come from a loving home with I had two great parents,
Mm-hmm.
brothers and sisters. We, we just played all the time, man, and I was able to fulfill my dream. I had a coach that really encouraged me to commit to the game of football, and that's what I did. I was able to get a scholarship to Clemson University, and surprisingly did pretty well. I wasn't highly recruited at all, but the guy who recruited me thought I could play some football and gave me an opportunity. I just kind of took that opportunity and ran with it.
Yeah. You must have had pretty good coaches. I do know your whole tenure, you did not miss a game. That
Thank
is very rare.
you.
So, hard hitting and also tackling the right way. So you must have had some pretty good coaching.
Yeah, I think that I was just really fortunate, and I think my parents really prayed very hard for me
Mm-hmm.
because football is a game where you're gonna kind of get bumped. You usually miss a game or two, or even more than that. But since I was, from my first game in high school, I never missed a game, and I think that's just being blessed and highly favored, and my father just really praying for me, and I just never missed one. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, especially, at the position you played,
Hmm.
you did a lot of tackling, a lot of contact,
Yes.
wide receivers as well as the running back. So to go 11 years and
Yeah.
to never miss a game, that is probably, is there anybody else who's had that kind of tenure?
I think there's a couple guys, but they're normally all quarterbacks. Normally, guys that play my position normally don't
Absolutely.
go through 11 years and not sit out a game here or there.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I was very, I was very fortunate, very blessed to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You have
it's
some,
probably a record. I mean, probably really
yeah.
close. If it's not a record, it's pretty
I
close.
was going to say, I can't think of any linebacker who's played that long and have not missed one game. So I
Right.
do think you hold the record for linebackers at that position. So let's talk about retirement. So tonight's discussion is the pro athlete's dilemma,
Hmm.
how to balance finance and legacy.
Right.
We all know the average NFL player only plays for 3 to 5 years, somewhere 3 to 5 years, so on average four. Um, with taxes, family obligations, and everything else, although most come in making millions. Once you add all those things up, if you only have a few years to collect that, talk about from your perspective, you had some longevity, but talk about in the league, what is like the average as far as like once they retire, what are you seeing?
Well, I think what you normally come across is that the career is shorter than you think. And so about as soon as you get in, you're going out.
Right,
And probably, especially during my time, was there was no, I'm not saying there wasn't financial literacy, but I don't think we really adopted it very well. There was less information. You're basically really have no education about how to handle that kind of money in such a short period of time. And so, as soon as your career begins, it kind of ends.
right,
Now you have to kind of go into the transition. Some guys like myself, we go in that transition a little later, but for the most average guys, they get it right away. It's 3 years and they're out, and
right,
now they have to rediscover themselves.
right.
And it's kind of like the military in a lot of ways. It parallels with the military.
Okay,
You're in there. Your life is structured. Um, Everybody's telling you what you do. You have a purpose, and then all of a sudden you're out of that position, and now it's up to you to figure it all out.
right,
Because for the most part, you've been told what to do,
right,
where to be, what time to be there, blah blah blah.
right,
And for a lot of guys, that's a transition that's very difficult.
right. So now let's get into it's Black History Month,
Yes.
and I wanted to tie in our segment with HBCUs.
Okay.
So I know the Rattlers know, all my Rattlers know
Yeah,
that
Rattlers.
you
Yeah,
were absolutely
I
that
was part
you
of that
were.
for a while. Yes.
Now, when did you come to Florida A&M and join the defensive coaching staff?
Ooh, I want to say 2013
15?
or 14.
Yeah, somewhere I was gonna say, was it
Yeah,
13 to 15?
my one of the guys that I play with, Earl Holmes,
Mm-hmm.
he got the head coaching job, and he told me like maybe a year or two before that,
Uh-huh.
and I was coaching high school ball. I was coaching at a Christian school, and he told me, "Hey, Kirk, if I get an opportunity, man, I'm gonna bring you on." And I've heard that so many times in my coaching
Right.
career, that hey, I get this gig, I'm bringing you with me.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay, yeah, I just kind of took it with a grain of salt, but he was true to his word. He invited me to come and work there, be a defensive coordinator. I've never been a defensive, well, on the high school level, I was a defense coordinator,
Right.
but I've never been a defense coordinator on the college level. And he gave me that opportunity, and it was really cool, really was.
Yes. And under your guidance, I believe it was either 2014 or 2015, you led the Rattler defense to number one defense in the MEAC. Was that 2014 or 2015?
I think it was 2015. Yeah,
2015? I think
yeah.
so too, if
Mhm.
my memory serves me correct. And then after that, you also went to join NFL coaching staffs, Arizona?
I went to Arizona after that. Yeah, went
Okay.
to Arizona.
Okay.
I wasn't the assistant coach. I was like the assistant under the assistant coach,
Right.
the outside linebackers. But Bruce Arians thought that I had something that and I played for 11 years, and he really valued that. Where a lot of coaching staffs did not value it as much.
Right.
They didn't really value the guy who actually played the game and was
Right.
involved in the game. It was more so, who do you
Who you know?
know?
Right.
I say coached with before, and that's kind of how it went. But Bruce gave me the opportunity to coach. I really thank him a lot for that.
Okay. And after after that, was it Tennessee? Did you join Tennessee after
No,
that?
no, I did like. It's kind of funny. I did a internship for Cincinnati after that, but I
Okay.
really came
But
to the
then,
realization that I didn't know if I wanted to coach on that level or the college level anymore.
right.
I'm a single father. I think it's really difficult to be a single father and to be a coach on the collegiate or NFL level.
Right. A lot of travel.
A lot of travel, and then also you may get fired and you have to get up and
Right.
move.
Right.
And by not having my wife died the first year at FAMU. So it was difficult because you didn't really have that partner to kind of help you
Right.
out in those situations.
Right.
So I just kind of thought like, you know what, maybe I can coach my own way. Maybe I can coach in a different way.
Right.
And and that's what I set out to do. I just like, I want to do something that is going to help other people.
Right.
And I just didn't want to do all the moving around as a coach.
Right.
I love the game and I love talking strategy and I love coaching athletes, but I thought that maybe I can do something a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, speaking of something different,
Uh-huh.
let's segue into what you're up to today.
Well, yeah, wow. Well, I am getting my master's in psychology. So
Okay.
I have two more classes and I'll finish that. But I work with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. And
Okay.
what we do with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame is we educate, empower, and encourage our student athletes um, to their very excellence.
Okay.
And kind of came about, a lot of times you have to find a problem to solve.
Right.
And I realized in South Carolina, just doing a little bit of um, amateur research, that we were 43rd in the nation as far as college and career readiness.
Wow.
And I just thought that was unacceptable. And
Right.
we started attacking this problem. We came up with a campaign of top 10 in 2030. And
Okay.
what we wanted to do was we didn't really want to do another program. We
Hmm.
felt that there were a lot of programs out there and just people needed to be aware of those programs. So we had a podcast called Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Right.
What we started doing was the first thing we did was we started nominating young men. And yes, it's young men as football players
Okay.
because I think that's really kind of where it's really needed. And so we started just like, man, who do we want to award? And we picked out athletes who had averages of 3.2, were not only great players but also great community leaders as well. And so
Okay.
we did that for the first year, and it really started to gain a lot of momentum the second year and the third year. So that's something that we give back. Hopefully, we can go even at the lower levels. When I mean by that, the middle schools, and
Right.
try to teach
Right.
them life lessons that are familiar with football. Being disciplined, understanding diversity, also making sure that they know how to get up when they fall down.
Absolutely.
So, so we do those kind of things, and it's really been a purpose for me. It's been my duty. Matter of fact, we just did a PSA with Dabo Swinney, who's the head
Okay.
coach at Clemson University,
Right.
talking about what we do with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. Other than that, I have another podcast called Beyond the Blitz with Levon Kirkland, and we
Mhm.
basically try to tell the stories of amazing people. And
Right.
I just didn't really want to do another locker room kind of podcast where it's all about, hey, remember when we did this, and
Right. There's a lot of shows like that.
yeah, and we put that aspect about how they got to the NFL, but we try to do some stuff like, what are you doing now? Happiness after football.
Absolutely.
I can't wait till March come because that's going to be Women's Month, and I can't wait to talk to some powerful women. So
Right.
I kind of just wanted to tell the origin story of people who've been through things, had maybe tragedy in their life, rebounded from that, and it can give you some leadership tips to go forward in the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the work that you're doing, and by the way, did we mention that you are in the South Carolina Sports Hall of Fame? Did we mention that?
No, we didn't mention that. I
We didn't
am in
mention that. Yeah, absolutely.
am in the
Absolutely.
Clemson Hall of Fame. I'm also in the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. and
Yeah.
also the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. And I've been nominated to be in the College Hall of Fame as well. I haven't quite got there yet,
It's
but
coming.
maybe one day it's coming.
Yeah,
So
it's coming.
uh,
I see the NFL Hall of Fame coming at one point too.
you see all that, yeah. I mean, so I've been
Absolutely.
nominated for even the NFL Hall of Fame. Believe it or not, I'm in the Pittsburgh Pro Sports Hall of Fame as
Oh,
well.
I know that.
Yeah. So,
I
you
know
know,
all the Steel City Mafia stuff.
I'm telling you, so man, I've been in I've been nominated for a lot of things. I've been really blessed in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a phenomenal career.
Hmm.
A phenomenal career. Not a lot of linebackers can, for one, play the game every single time, every game, and make a
Right.
difference, you know?
Yeah. Like I said, I was just really, really blessed, but a lot of stuff that I kind of just manifest too, even at a young age. I manifest me going to the NFL. And the funny thing was, it was no doubt about it. I was
Yeah.
clear
Yeah.
that that was the path I was going. So I knew at a young age, I
Right.
knew the path I was going. And I know that a lot of people say, well, that's not, going to play sports, that's usually not the way to go because it's so hard. It's the
Right.
1%.
Right.
But
You knew.
I got this confirmation from God that it was going to happen, and I was smart enough to protect it. I didn't tell anybody about me that I wanted to go to the NFL. What happened was um, I knew it in my heart, but then I went to high school, and in my 10th grade year, my head coach was like, "Man, you can go to the next level, but you got to commit."
Right.
I'm telling you, when she told me that, I fed that into my soul, and I was like, "Okay, I'm committed."
Right.
And then I got selected to go to Clemson, got recruited to Clemson. I remember just working out, and one of the GAs came up to me, and he's like, "I tell you what, Kirkland, if you keep working the way you work, you're going to be the best linebacker who ever played here." And a lot of times people will
Absolutely.
brush that off. If I give you a compliment that, "Oh, I love your hat," most people would say, "Oh, this old thing, blah, 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 blah." But I believe in feeding the positive wolf. And when he told me that, I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm
Right.
going to be one of the best linebackers here." Okay.
That's right.
And it just propelled me to work really hard. And I have to say that I'm the probably the best linebacker. I know there's an argument, but I got
A
my name in the stadium and I did all the
absolutely.
things you're supposed to do. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
therefore,
Like
I'm
I
the best
said,
linebacker ever there.
you know, pound for pound, game for game, I
Right.
think
Yeah.
you hold the record.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I was a big linebacker too, and a lot of people, kind of wonder, like, man, how could you do the stuff he did? And
Right.
I just really contributed to playing multiple sports. I think that's important for any athlete.
Right.
Play different sports.
Versatility. Right.
Yeah. Get
Yeah.
that flexibility. Play different sports. And it's all about having that great mindset and having and understanding clearly where you're going, having some
Right.
clarity about where you want to be and how
Right.
to get there.
Yeah. I remember one of the first conversations we had years ago. You told me that story when you were
Yeah. Hmm.
young and how you knew. I don't remember all the details because it's been a few years ago, but
Yeah.
I do remember you saying that like you could see it. You
Yeah.
knew before the term manifestation, was popular and everything
All
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
kind
And I
of
was only
already
11
knew.
years old.
Right, right. You
Right.
already knew, which is funny. 11 is that number of manifestation. So the
Hmm.
fact that you felt that way and knew it, that inkling. Um, Also, you playing for my favorite team, the Steelers, Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
that organization, unparalleled to
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
other. If y'all don't know about the Steelers organization, just look it up.
Yeah.
There's no other organization that has done more for the culture, for black coaches
Mm.
and leadership than the Steelers. Okay?
Yeah. They were leaps and bounds as far as black coaches were concerned. Uh,
Absolutely.
I remember the story of Chuck Noll and how he hired Tony Dungy
Mm-hmm.
to be his defensive coordinator. And
Yep.
Tony Dungy was a young man.
He was.
Did that.
Wasn't he 28, 27, 28 at the time?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
very
and
young.
there was no hesitation from Coach Noel
And
to
look at
do
all the black coaches that came under the tutelage of, and
right.
I call Tony Dungy my dad because, and I think I told you this years ago. My father, and there's a picture of my father when he was in the military,
Hmm.
and him and Tony Dungy could be twins. Like
Really?
I remember it like yesterday. My twin and we were in Orlando. This was the first year that Tony Dungy coached for the Buccaneers. We just happened to come home from church, turn on the TV, and my sister yells out, and she's like, "Hey, um, look, is that Dad on the TV?" And I come running in, and I'm like, "Wow, he does look like
Wow.
Randy." Our father's name is Randy,
Right.
and from then on, we both were like,
He's our dad.
and
Yeah.
fast forward some years, once Coach Dungy retired, um, my ex husband, remember he went on the book tour,
Right.
Dungy? My ex husband actually bought tickets to go to the book signing, and he had told Coach Dungy that when I see him on TV, I always refer to him as my dad.
Hmm.
So he addressed he signed my book to my daughter Shoni.
Oh
So
man,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
he was always a stand up guy,
Yeah.
and just all the coaches that came under him that are doing well today. Tomlin,
Tomlin is
Steel City, Steel City Mafia.
Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the NFL.
He is,
When people talk about firing him and he should go, I'm like, he would get a job like the next day.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
and I've listened to him while he, I was there for an internship at one point in time, and I was like, wow, I would really want to play for him. I mean,
right,
he
yes,
really knows how to connect with the players, and that's what it's all about: connecting, getting those relationships with the players. And he does a
absolutely,
great job of doing that, and he does a good job of keeping that team afloat. And I'm really proud of the Steelers of when he did his interview, how he wasn't really the top candidate. He wasn't the guy they were looking for. He
right,
really wasn't so much on their radar,
right,
and they thought that maybe some two other guys may get it, but he just kind of blew them away.
right,
And
right,
he was able to get that job and held on for like 15. He's holding on for 15 years and got some more years to go.
absolutely. And I have to put this record out there.
Okay.
Coach Tomlin has never had a losing season.
Yeah.
Not one
Which,
season. Not
which
many
is
coaches can
amazing.
say that. Not many coaches can
Not a
say that.
lot. I mean, Bill Belichick can't say that. I know
The
I've been
great,
on
a
teams
lot of
with
the
Bill
greats can't say
Cowher
that.
and Bill Cowher was a great coach. He can't say that. Andy Reid can't say that. There's a lot of coaches that have not had the success that he's
Yes,
had.
yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think Tony Dungy is up there too.
Right.
I can't
And
remember
Tony
him
Dungy had the
having.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they were bad.
Yes,
They were
the best.
absolutely
I
terrible.
know everybody talks about the Chicago Bears defense back in the day, and also Steel City Mafia,
Yeah.
but I do think the Tampa Bay 2000, it was 2002 or 2003, I can't remember.
That's
Um,
2002. Yeah.
yeah, even before the 2002, the year prior, they were
Yeah,
that
they were
good.
great. They were a
Yeah,
great defense. When I
yeah,
was at Philly, we played them, and I mean, we played them in the NFC Championship,
yep, I remember that.
and yeah, we just could not get over the hump. That defense was amazing.
Yeah, defense was excellent. Um, Good old Monty Kiffin
Yeah,
and good old Tony Dungy.
yeah,
That
man.
that tag team,
And I
amazing.
mean, the whole Tampa 2 concept comes from those two as well. So
Right. And think
yeah,
of it, not to sway into football, I can talk that all day, but
you are good at talking football. You are.
um,
So
think about it. I don't think there's ever been a defense to be able to play um, the zone like they did.
right, especially with Derek Brooks, and
Yes,
Derek
yes,
Brooks really did a good
absolutely.
job of
Shelton
playing
Quarles
against
too.
them. Yeah,
Shelton Quarles,
yeah.
Derrick Brooks.
Yeah, they had
And
a
come
team.
on, Lynch
John
and
Lynch
safety.
Mob. Yeah,
My goodness,
one of my
they
favorite
played
guys.
the
One of my favorite players.
yeah,
He's in
they
them
played the
all the time
zone better
when
than any defense
commentating.
I've ever seen, you know? So it's kind of hard to play zone and to have, a defensive player on you. But
Yeah,
their communication between everybody was just amazing. And I think Monty Kiffin had a lot to do with that. But anyway, let's go let's go and get
yeah.
back to
You
pro
should be
athletes.
you should be the football diva.
The football diva.
Yes.
I used to commentate sports back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you
For
know
a
a lot of
Rattler,
shit.
for a
Yeah.
Rattler,
Okay.
Jericho Broadcast Network. Shout
Oh,
out to
cool.
Roy Mitchum with Jericho Broadcast Network. I did some games live through their network. Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about pro athletes
Hmm.
and balancing wealth and legacy.
Right.
And while we're talking about that, I want to point out that we all know what Deion Sanders did for Jackson State. We also know what Eddie George is, the moves he's making up there at Tennessee. I want to say you were first, maybe not as the head coach
Right.
of an HBCU, but as far as NFL players, retired NFL players joining the HBCU um, coaching staff, you were one
Hmm.
of the first. And let's talk about the how that impacted and changed your perspective. I know you went to Clemson, the
Right.
PWI,
Right.
with a mate that's probably one of the best defenses of all time for college
Hmm.
that you played on. And so, coming to an HBCU, what were your initial thoughts as far as what that would be like?
Well, first and foremost, I liked the opportunity I had. I just wanted to really coach the game
Hmm.
and to give that what I thought was my experience and my knowledge. I wanted to give that back. And although I went to a PWI, there wasn't really a lot of opportunities, for a guy who done everything I've done as far as a player is concerned. It's almost like, well, we want to see what you do as a coach. And so we want to start you at the very bottom. And you're
Right,
thinking, well, my grad assistant experience is playing the game and understanding the game and really studying from some of the best people,
right,
like, Bill Cowher, Dick LeBeau, Dom Capers, Tim Lewis, Jim
right.
Haslett. I mean, I felt like I had a wealth of experience already, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah,
this opportunity came and it was really so good. Even though I was going through my wife being sick and ill, and at first I wasn't going to go because I felt like I have a wife that has stage 4 cancer, lung cancer,
right.
you know, but she was the one that really encouraged me to go to family,
Yeah, to take the opportunity.
to take that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, no, you know what? Why not? Why not take
right,
that opportunity? And I did. And the glaring thing I saw that was different was facilities.
right.
And it's not. I don't think that's a FAMU fault. I think that's more of
Lack of funding.
a lack of funding
Yeah,
and
definitely.
how it's separated from the big fives to other schools where they get
Absolutely.
the television
Right,
contracts, they get
right,
the private money, where maybe HBCU don't quite get that. And
right,
that's really more so the system.
right.
It's not
More
like they're not donating money.
right. It's
Those
also more
folks,
so,
yeah,
HBCUs do not get the same level
they
of
don't.
federal
They don't,
funding.
they don't get to
I
see
get
it.
local. Local is based on your your taxes for real estate and things like that. However, when it comes to federal funding, we
Right,
definitely do not. We're way behind. I know there's fights going on. Tennessee won their fight in the state of Tennessee, where they were issued the back payment from all the years that they should have gotten a certain amount per student.
right, right.
Other HBCUs, that fight is still ongoing. But
Yeah,
when you look at, the dollars from being able to every week be on ESPN and some of the other stations.
Our Fox, our
Yeah,
CBS.
even if you take that out of it, just the fact that it costs pretty much the same per state as far
Right,
as construction, upkeep, things like that. So to run a university, the buildings, the maintenance, utilities, water, gas, all of those things, those costs are pretty much the same. And for FAMU to have 10 to 12,000 students
right,
and to make or to receive from the federal government pennies compared to UF,
penny.
compared to UCF, compared to Florida State, which is right around the corner. You
Right.
know, it's I know they're working to correct those things, but the reason it's not because alumni like myself and others don't
Yeah,
donate.
not at all.
Donations are a portion of it, and it's how we can help make up some of the lack. But
Right.
for the most part, it's on the federal.
It's on the
That's where
federal.
the
Yeah,
that's where
and
it is.
and and that's one of the things that being, I guess, naive at the point, when I first got there,
Right.
you're thinking like, why don't people just give? And you realize they do give. It's not
Yes,
that
they do.
they really do give,
Yeah.
and I really got a different perspective of HBCU, and really, honestly, I gained so much respect
Right.
for what the coaches have done throughout the years, uh, especially at FAMU, the incredible history they had, and other coaches, Grambling State, Eddie Robinson,
Right.
they've done a tremendous job with really being kind of handcuffed, one hand
Absolutely.
behind your back. And when I went there, what I found out too, these kids are pretty good players,
Right.
but we're not getting everything that maybe other schools are getting. And
Right.
that's and I really thought it was unfair
Right.
in a lot of ways. Once I got there and I realized what it was, I was like, this is unfair. This shouldn't be this
Right.
way. Because the kids at FAMU deserve everything that the other kids at other schools get.
Absolutely. We do. We
Yeah.
do.
And it was just, but and we kind of talked about this a little bit before though.
Right.
I think that the kids that went to the HBCUs,
Hmm.
especially even the athletes, especially the athletes, I felt like they were better prepared to go out into the world
Right.
because they had to, people always talk about I grind, I work. You go to HBCU, man, you talking about grinding and working.
Right. There's no preferential treatment, you
Right.
know?
When I was at Clemson, I love Clemson, but unfortunately, they did a lot of things for us
Right.
because it was all about winning and producing that product on the field. So
Right.
we didn't have to even, I mean, like, we didn't even register. They basically gave us a
Schedule.
folder,
They picked out everything, all the classes
and
and
you
all
just
that kind of
went
stuff.
to the registrar and say, here you go.
Wow.
All right, cool, stamp, you're
No
good.
standing in line, huh?
Yeah,
No
and
standing
no
in line.
standing in line. Where I think the guys that we had to, man, they had to get it done.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
college is about growing up.
Right.
It's that buffer between high school and real life.
Absolutely.
And
You said
in
the
that
operative word,
buffer, you're
growing
supposed
up.
to discover yourself. And I think at times at university I went to, PWI at that time, I'm not saying they don't do a better job of it now,
Right.
but you weren't really prepared, you
Right.
know?
Right.
You wasn't really prepared. It was kind of more so like survival mode. And you didn't have a lot of mentors and you didn't have a lot of professors that looked like me,
Right. Right.
So you're at this school that mostly have white kids, and you're not getting some of the lessons that you should. You're just kind of surviving. And I think that at HBCU level, man, it was you saw that the professors they cared,
Absolutely.
they mentored those kids, they gave them rigor. And my brothers and sisters that went to South Carolina State, they say the same thing. Like it was,
Absolutely.
I
We
think
don't
sometimes
play.
when you go to a PWI, you think it's you think it's harder, but man, you go to HBCU, they are no joke academically.
Absolutely.
They are no
There's no,
joke. You better get your work, or they don't really care. you gonna be
absolutely.
out there with an F. So I saw it differently from
Right.
being a guy who was basically went to a PWI, who went to the NFL and was catered to for the most part, and to go coach at that level, man, it was humbling, but it was a great experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I want to expound on because I know we've had this conversation before, talk about as a lot of athletes today, even parents,
Hmm.
they'll use the excuse. To me, I say it's an excuse. I mean, look what Dion was able to accomplish. I do know that having access to certain things definitely helps develop an athlete.
Hmm.
However, you know, you can go back 40 years. They didn't have all of that. you know,
Yeah.
I think work ethic and knowing the skill and knowing the skill in the position you play is more effective than a whole bunch of weights. Anybody can bench press and bulk up, but if you don't have the skill to perform the job that you're out there to do, whether you got big muscles or not, it's not going to matter.
Right.
So a lot of students are of the notion, and when I say students, I'm talking about those who look like us, right?
Hmm.
That going to a Georgia or a Clemson, you know, or even a UCLA or any Michigan, Ohio State, Florida, any of those schools is better than going to an HBCU. Talk about the times when you were the experience of a Black athlete at Clemson when you were there and the treatment, because I don't think that gets talked about
Hmm.
from professional pro athletes. They don't talk about the downturn. I think they brush past it, because they've made it. So you're one of the few that tells the truth about it. So expound on that experience a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure. And now you got to know that I was probably one of the popular athletes when I was at Clemson. You know,
Absolutely.
I was, you know, they really, I mean, they loved me. I mean, and I mean, I was a good guy during that time, but I also realized that, man, you are they? You kind of question it. You kind of just like, are they liking me because of just what I do? Because I'm a really good football player.
Right.
I'm one of the best in the country.
Right.
Is this a reason why I'm getting this treatment?
Right.
Where you're getting a lot of love. And on that little utopia of a school, you're getting that love. But if
Right.
you step out, you're
Right.
not getting that love. You're just not. I mean, if I had a number 44 on, there were people that were willing to let me hold their babies. But I guarantee you that if they saw me outside of that realm,
Right.
they'll be clutching their babies.
Right. Right.
So
Absolutely.
in a lot of ways, you got favorable treatment, but only because you did what you did,
Right.
and you were
It
kind
wasn't
of,
genuine.
huh?
It wasn't genuine.
It wasn't genuine, as it
As long as you were performing, winning
as long as you
games.
were as long as you
Yeah.
were doing your thing. I mean,
Right.
and I love the fans at Clemson, but I mean, I'm just being very honest and real with you.
Right.
That and then you kind of got it. You know, my first year, when you go to class and they find out that you're a football player, is you get treated a little differently. And I
Okay.
remember we were having a conversation. It was me and a group of people, and they were just like, "As a football player, do you do you know there's racism in Clemson?" I'm like, "Of course I do. I come from a small town that
Right.
they put over the bus in 1970. You know, so I understand about it a whole lot. But it wasn't all in your face. I think it was more behind your back, more so.
Right. Right.
But I think as long as you you made those tackles, you made those sacks. They people were loving you, and it's unfortunate in a lot of ways. Like
Right.
I said, I mean, I love Clemson University, but I'm just being real.
It has its
And we didn't really have a lot of, we didn't really have a lot of mentors. And what
right.
I mean by that is we had coaches and stuff like that, and I feel like those coaches care, but they could only care within the realms of the NCAA.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm talking about my experience. So
Right.
you didn't really have anybody that maybe that wasn't in that bubble that you can really talk to.
Right.
So it was all about football and making sure that you're eligible to play.
Right.
And, although it seems glamorous, in some ways it is, but I think you can get caught up. And I think a lot of times, unfortunately, for when I was there from the late '80s or early '90s, guys that you either went to the NFL, you either
Right.
graduate, or you didn't do either. And I imagine I don't have the stats, but I don't think a lot of our guys did either.
Hmm.
I'm talking about a heavy percentage, probably over 50%
Right.
didn't do either. I was fortunate to go into the NFL, but I came back to get my degree, which is kind of funny. People thought that was the weirdest thing when I came back. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that so weird? Because I wanted my degree. I was a few hours short because I did all this stuff for football that year.
Right.
And I mean, people looked at me like, why are you coming back to school? I'm like,
Yeah.
degree.
You want your degree.
I wanted to finish up. So now I can wear these colors and be like proud of it.
Right.
But yeah, it was a different experience. It really was. And, there was not a lot of information. We didn't have the internet. So we could only see beyond our faces, or if you read the newspaper or you kept informed. And I think that it puts you really into a box. It did. Yeah.
Right. And now you're working on the masters. Look at that.
Yeah.
Won't he do it?
Masters. It was such a different dynamic going in because my parents, they did the very best they could. They were able to help my other brothers and sisters go to school. I didn't want them to pay for my schooling. So by the grace of God, I got a scholarship. But a lot of us, man, we were a lot of the African American kids that was there, man. We are almost in the same boat in a lot of ways, maybe different situations, but it was we're low income, you know.
Right.
We didn't really a lot of us didn't really understand money, and we
Right.
didn't really understand the brand that we were. We came in as athletically dominant, but on the other side, we lacked. We really did.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like our parents did the best they could, but we because we're surviving. When you're surviving, it's hard to like read other books or whatever like that. Sometimes your parents didn't finish high school or anything like that,
Right.
so it was difficult, man. I knew that my parents couldn't afford for me to go to Clemson, so it's important for me to get that scholarship. But
Right.
we didn't really learn enough about how to handle our finances, especially some of us that were going to go into big money. We just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And coming into such a large amount of money, um, do you think a lot of athletes, well, I know a lot of athletes probably don't have the right team around them.
Hmm.
Does like the NFL, I don't know if y'all are paid W-2 or 1099, do they take taxes out or are you
Yeah,
responsible
I
for your own
mean,
taxes?
they do all that, and I had an investment guy who was pretty good, but I did a lot of mine, which is common sense kind of stuff. I still didn't know a whole lot about money. I remember the first check I got; it was more money than I ever see, like ever held in my hand in
Right,
my life. And I had the question, which I think a lot of people probably should have had, is like, what do I do with this?
right.
Like I,
Lost
I
track a little
really
bit.
I sincerely had that question. What
Right,
do I do with this? I don't know what to do with this check that I just got. What do I do?
Were you a little shell shocked?
I was because I played the game not so much for the money. I knew there was going to be money in it, but
Hmm.
I love the game. I still love the game. I love the aspect of. I love the whole combative nature, going against another guy, proving yourself,
Right.
and being the very best at this very difficult, complicated sport that is really not made for humans to do. It's just this is something that I don't think God said I want you to do.
Right.
Running to another person, it's
Right.
like little car accidents, but I loved it. So the money aspect of it, uh, God, I probably would have played for. I think I might have, until I got older, I think I would have played for less.
Right.
The first check I got, I really would have. So we
Wow.
just didn't really, from I'm being honest, I didn't know a whole lot about money. I just did.
I would say most athletes. It's not even an athlete thing. Most people don't understand how money works. A large part of that is, you know, we learn monetary habits
Right,
from the environments that we live in. We do what we see our parents do. Um, Financial literacy is not taught in schools by design. For the most part, it wasn't designed for schools to teach you that. It was mostly, parents should be teaching their kids so that they can teach their kids and so on. But at this point, because most Americans don't have savings, horrible credit, and massive debt, it's at a point where something has to be done. I am
yeah,
starting. Uh, this is not a shameless plug. I'm definitely plugging this right now because it's my podcast. Um, So2wealth.com is an online school that will be launching. One of the first courses in the online school is the name of the course is Credit Confidence, a
hmm
comprehensive guide to achieving financial freedom through personal credit mastery. So, um, when my mom, my grandmother, and all the generations prior were coming up, they didn't have to deal with credit at all. They didn't.
right,
The system wasn't built on that form of credit. But credit is biblical, um, the parable of the tens. I teach on that. But because credit isn't new, it's fairly new to America and other countries. Credit literally is just leverage,
right,
using someone else's resources to turn a profit or to make a living and to build wealth, right? Anytime a business hires an employee, that's credit. You're doing work now, and then they
hmm
have to pay you later. So there's many forms of credit. Like I said, when you work, whether it's a week later, 2 weeks later, twice a month, however they choose to pay you, you're doing something. They're using your expertise to what? Make money
right,
before I have to pay you for your work. So as an athlete,
hmm
did the NFL, Clemson, anyone have programs in place to teach you, financial literacy, credit, how to manage your money, or was it something that was hands off?
Well, I want to say when I was at Clemson, it wasn't quite like that. It really wasn't. Not that I didn't know of courses that you could take to really
Hmm.
just kind of manage your money. I mean, you had those classes, but to really talk to you about money and how it works, no. But at the NFL, they did a little bit more of that.
Okay.
You it's really how you approached it. Some guys didn't. Like we're so bogged down with everything. You
Right.
know that, and we think that it's going to last forever because
Right.
we're kind of in
You never
football
had that
players
kind of money before.
being in the moment.
Right. And you've never had that kind of money before. So you like,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
and unless you have
these
somebody
millions forever,
in
you
that
know?
situation who understands it, you don't really have a clue
Right.
of what you're doing. But the NFL, they definitely did their part as far as doing that. Like I said at Clemson, especially what Clemson does now with the Paul Journey, they do a tremendous job of getting our student athletes prepared for their next step in the world.
Right.
And the reason why they probably do that as well is because of Coach Dabo Sweeney and a guy like Jeff Davis, who was in the NFL, who played on the 1981 national championship team. And by him being there, he kind of understood a little bit more like our players need more than just meals and all
Right.
that. They need to learn some life lessons while they're here.
Absolutely.
So I could say for Clemson University, I think they do a good job of that. Now they do a good job. Back then,
You guys didn't
nobody
get any of that. Right.
nobody had a clue of doing that. Nobody was that proactive or saw it in the future that way. We
Right.
were there, one of the coaches told me when we were at Clemson, like, man, we're here to win championships, you know, and you graduate on your own time.
Oh
But
wow.
he was being real though.
Right.
I mean, think about it. He was being real. I don't really fault him for that because he was like, dude, my job is to
To win
coach
games.
you to play and for us to win so I can continue to keep working. um, you want to graduate. I don't know if I can wring your neck to graduate.
Right.
Graduate in your own time. But I thought he was being real. I didn't think he was being mean or whatever like that. He was just telling the reality of it.
Right.
Hmm.
All right. So as we wrap up
Okay.
this wonderful conversation,
And I got to
what
tell you
is
something that
what's
every,
that?
every time that we talk,
Hmm.
I get smarter. You always give me information that makes me smarter, make me think. Ever since we've met a while back, and
Right.
we've had our friendship, you've always I'm like I learn something from her all the time, every day. I mean, every time we talk, I learn something.
Right. I appreciate
So
that.
I want to say that you are amazing as far as finance. I mean, you're on top of it. I wish I would have had you back in '88, but I think you were younger.
Right.
You
Right.
were still smarter. But yeah, I mean, I think you do a great service. You were one of the few people that kind of helped me to realize what entrepreneurship was and why it was important.
Thank you.
Because we come up, you work for someone, you work,
Right.
and you
Right.
realize, wait a second,
Right. Right.
wait a
They making
second.
money off me, you know?
Yeah, you start thinking that way. Like, why am I doing all this? And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope I did a little something to
You
enhance
were
it.
amazing. Like,
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing and pouring out your perspective. Like I said, I think we'll see a trend of a
Mhm.
lot of retired NFL players coming to coach and to, help build up the legacy of HBCU football and other sports too. And as
Yeah,
quiet as it's kept, though, like I said, before Eddie George, before the Deion Sanders, there was
yeah.
Levon Kirkland,
Oh well,
getting the Rattlers defense to number one
I'm
in the
telling you,
MEAC.
I loved on those kids. I related to them. We laughed, so it was a privilege for me to play there. And like I said, sometimes you assume things and you think that and
Yeah,
you've been living on one side,
right,
and then when you go to another side, you get another perspective. And
right,
that's what basically happened to me. I just got another perspective, and my
right,
respect level went sky high after that HBCU experience at FAMU. I mean,
right,
I never, I was familiar with South Carolina State
right,
because most of my siblings went to South Carolina State.
right.
Benedict, I was familiar with that. So, and honestly, I'm gonna tell you, if Coach Jeffries, if you don't know Willie Jeffries, the legendary coach from South Carolina State, was one of the first coaches that coach black coaches that coach at D1 level. I'm telling you, if he would have recruited me, I might have went to South Carolina State.
I'm sure you would. We've had
I'm
the
telling you,
conversation. You
just
know,
having conversations with him, I would have loved being around him.
I'm pretty sure he probably regrets not
No,
coming
no, no, he wasn't there.
bring you. Oh, he
He
wasn't
wasn't there.
there at the
He
time?
wasn't
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So that's the reason why he didn't recruit me. He
Okay.
wasn't. But
Got
I'm
you.
telling you, if he was there and I
You
would
would
have
have
been
been South Carolina.
Billy
Okay.
Jeffrey, it would have been all over.
Okay.
It would have been
Okay.
all over. I'd have went to time, and I love South Carolina State. I'm a Bulldog fan, but I'm
And,
also a FAMU.
and a rattler. And a
Yeah,
rattler.
I know. I'm about to tell you, I'm a FAMU fan too.
There you go. There you go.
I keep up with FAMU ever since I left. I mean, I the people. It was really a fun experience for me. I really
Right.
enjoyed it. I just, I wish we could have coached longer. I really,
Right. Right.
yeah. That's the only regret that we didn't coach there longer.
The impact that you had though, uh it's there, so um again, I thank you for being honest. I also thank you for getting the school that I love. Everybody know me, I'm a rattler till I die, you
But I
know.
can see why, though.
Yeah, and see, now you know why.
I can
Now
see
you
why.
know why. Now you
Yeah,
know why.
it's a
I
lot
think
of it's a lot of love that's given there. I can definitely see why. And I used to wonder that, like, why do you love FAMU so much? And then
what?
you get there and then you see it, you're like, okay, I get it.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I got it. I
It's
got
a
it.
magical experience,
It
so
really, yeah. And I would encourage more African American students who are athletes to look at HBCUs as an option
absolutely.
because
To me, it's the best option,
yeah, if you think about it, I know some people think, I know what it is. You go to Alabama or Clemson and you're thinking, this is my best opportunity to get into the NFL. Because as a naive athlete, that's kind of what you're thinking. Now I'm going
Right.
to the NFL. I would dare say that, man, the NFL, the one thing about it, you can say whatever you want to say about it, they don't care where you
You
come.
win.
They don't care
Absolutely.
what school you went to. They just
Absolutely.
don't. They don't. And I think for the mentoringship, the love, and the care you get at HBCU is uh, amazing. I wish I would have. In a lot of ways, I didn't have that experience, but man, that experience would have been nice.
I'm telling you, I tell this story all the time. I happened to go to FAMU at a time where the best president in all of HBCU history, Dr. Frederick Humphreys, was
Right,
president. He got Florida A&M as the Time magazine's number one college in all the land.
right.
And that was because under his tutelage, he made sure that we were getting in and out in 4 years.
Mhm.
Um, Years later, Florida A&M Law School came back and it was opened in Orlando, which was great for me because, you know, I wanted to go to law school and I'm a rattler till I die. And I was living in Orlando. So I was like, bet, let me go ahead and take the LSAT. And I remember my oldest daughter, who's in college now, she was, I believe, 5 or 6 at the time. So it was me, my husband, Zaria, who was like 5 or 6 at the time, and my stepdaughter. So we go to tour FAMU's law school. It had only been open for a year, maybe two
Mhm.
years. And I was so excited, to tour the school. And so we go, and I had no idea that Dr. Humphreys was the dean there. I had no idea.
Wow.
I knew he had retired from, as president from FAM, but I didn't know. So she's taking us on a tour, and we come by. She says, "Oh, before we wrap up, I want to drop in, let you guys meet the dean." And I saw the name on there, and before I could say his name when we walked in, my maiden name is Cooper. He said, "Miss Cooper." He recognized me, and I was like,
Wow.
"Wow," like
Yeah.
I know I was that girl. I know I
That's
was a good girl. I know I was doing my thing. AB on a
that's
roll,
amazing.
straight A
That's
on a roll. there were times where I would run into him, but for him to remember my face and name, um, my ex-husband, he went to UCF,
Uh,
engineering UCF. Now his father, I probably married him because his father was a rattler.
right.
So, he was kind of a little bit in there because his father was a rattler. And he went to UCF. And I remember when we got back to the car, he was like, wow, like you came out of family win? He was like, and your president knew your face and still knew your name. And I'm like, that's the power of going to an
Mhm.
HBCU. As big as FAMU is, um, Dr. Humphreys knew the students. He had that relationship with the students.
Right,
So he poured in, he supported whatever you need. You could go talk to him. When I say he was number one, number one. Um, Rattlers who went to FAMU during his tenure, we're called the Humphreys baby. So I am a
right.
Humphreys baby.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, you
Right?
don't get that. You're
You
just
don't get
another
that.
number at a
You don't get
PWI.
that love everywhere. You don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think my ex-husband, he was of the mindset at first that going to a PWI was better, more opportunities, etc. Even him being an engineer, FAMU's engineering school is top notch. So much so that FSU tacked their name onto ours.
Right,
Um, a lot of African engineers go there, and when they come out, they're making higher than engineers at other schools. So,
right.
after he did some research, he started to realize,
Yeah.
wow, the experience is different. And I
Hmm.
see why my wife goes hard for that school. He understood at that moment just from doing a tour and seeing a college president recognize his wife's face from all those years ago.
Right. Well, that's amazing, and me experiencing that. That's why I tell guys that it's a great opportunity,
Hmm.
and you get to meet some amazing people that could be
Yes.
influential throughout your life. I see my guys that I coach online and everything, and I see them doing extremely
Very
well.
good.
They're
Absolutely.
doing extremely well. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, because the athletic life is only, and I loved it when I was in it, and I encourage anybody to go for it. But I see the I don't know, the camaraderie, and the first time I went
Love.
to homecoming, I did not realize, like, because I went to. It's funny because I went to homecoming at Clemson,
Right.
and
No
I mean
comparison.
Kirkland, and I didn't feel the love that I witnessed when I saw that FAMU.
Right.
And I was just observing
Right.
the love and the care. I mean, it was amazing.
Right.
So I would tell it. I mean, and I thought Dion kind of showed a way. There were some other
Yeah.
coaches that did it
Yeah.
before, but of course, Dion kind of used his platform in a great way to really show what could be done. So
Absolutely. And
I,
and we're
and in a
forever
way, to
grateful to him
understand
for
why
that.
he left,
Hmm.
I wanted him to stay. I really wanted him to stay a little
Oh,
longer.
me too.
I wanted him to stay just a little longer, but I understand why he left. I get it. But yeah, I think it's a option for the young athletes, man. I think that you will experience something that you've never experienced before. So
Yep. I want to say while we wrap up that you are a part of the family. You were a beloved coach for that great
thank you.
defense. Your family. So, I see you wearing the orange. Next time you can put a little green with it.
I used
And
to rock that orange and green.
yes, come on,
Know,
that
my
orange, green, and white.
daughter, my
Yes.
daughter used to wear. I got a fam shirt, man. She used to wear that thing all the time.
The
So,
best, the best colors. Orange, green, and white. Come on.
there's
Come on.
something about that. Oh, you do. It's a unique color, and you
Yep.
kind of like,
And brown skin look good in it. And so that's what I'm saying,
it always looks good. Yeah, no question about it. But it was really wonderful talking to you again.
Likewise, likewise.
Yeah.
You
We got to
know,
keep it going.
absolutely, absolutely. And, I'll have you back maybe
Okay,
season
sure.
two,
I want to have you on my show as well.
Yes. Say the
I'm
word.
just gonna let you roll and just blow everybody away.
Say the word. I will definitely come to your podcast and tell the audience again the name of your podcast.
Yeah, it's Beyond the Blitz with Levon Kirkland. And I
Mhm.
also have a podcast called Believe in Clemson Football, where we normally just kind of talk football, but Beyond the Blitz talks, we get a little bit more in depth
Okay.
of the guests that we have. So yeah, so we're gonna ask you a lot of deep questions. You ready for that?
Absolutely.
I know you are.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us this week on the Ask the Finance Diva podcast. We look forward to coming to you live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share so you'll never miss an episode.